Councillor Schumann when he arrives. I would like to begin by welcoming those members of the public and the press who are watching the live stream of this meeting via the Combined Authorities website. And due to government guidance on social distancing, this meeting is being held remotely in accordance with the meeting's regulations 2020. The software allows you to choose a name when you join the meeting. To members of the public, if you do not want to be identifiable, please choose a pseudonym. A decision summary and minutes of the meeting will be produced in the usual way, and a recording of the meeting will be available to view on the meeting page of the Combined Authorities website. To enable the meeting to run in an orderly manner, I would ask all members of the committee to keep their video camera switched on for the duration of the meeting, and to keep their microphone muted except when I invite them to speak. Officers will join us to introduce their reports in the usual way. Any members wishing to ask questions or make a comment should indicate this by clicking the raised hand function on the right-hand side of the screen. When I invite you to speak, please unmute your microphone and ask your question, and then mute it again to allow the officer to respond. As with all new arrangements, especially those involving new systems, there is always a risk that we may run into technical problems, and I would therefore ask for your patience if we do. And I would remind members and officers that all virtual meetings will be recorded. So we will move on to part one, which is governance. Members, I will begin by calling the names of all members of the committee to establish your presence. Please confirm. So Councillor Ian Bates.
Present.
Councillor Peter Hiller.
Here, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Nikki Massey.
Present.
Councillor John Nish.
Present.
Councillor Joshua Schumann.
Present.
Councillor Chris Seaton.
Present.
Councillor Aidan van der Veer.
Present.
And myself. So thank you all for attending. And as you have all indicated that you are here, I assume there are no reports or apologies. So we'll go straight on to ask if there are any disclosable pecuniary interests or non-statutory disclosable interests. Nobody has raised their hand. So we go to item 1.2 on the agenda, and we are being asked to approve the minutes of the meeting on the 15th of May 2020 as a correct record. Can I ask if any member who does not agree with this proposal to click the raised hand function on the right of the screen now? Excellent, so there are no objections, so thank you very much. And related on that basis, members are happy to approve the minutes. So on the basis of the recommendation to approve the minutes, I will sign a hard copy when I return to the office. Relating to the minutes, I have a couple of updates I would like to bring to committee. Firstly, on Coldham's Lane. The committee was informed at its April meeting that the more attractive options for Coldham's Lane roundabout were not affordable within the available budget. Rather than immediately decide to back a cheaper option, we asked officers to explore the scope for funding contributions from the Greater Cambridge Partnership or councils. Initial discussions with partners have taken place and other possible sources of contributions have been investigated. The Cambridgeshire County Council team have continued work on the design of the roundabout. Additional traffic modelling to determine the full transport user benefits is also being undertaken to inform our decision. Cost estimates have been updated for all options and are currently being independently reviewed by a quantity surveyor. Funding discussions with partners cannot be completed until this further work has been done. The outcome will be brought back to the next Transport and Infrastructure Committee. On the A10, a virtual public information event is taking place to complement the development of the SOBC, that Strategic Outline Business Case, for dualling the A10 between Cambridge and Ealing. This will continue until the 14th of July. To date, after 2 weeks, some 6,000 people have visited the information site, and around 250 residents and businesses have provided detailed comments on 7 options for the future road. The Strategic Outline Business Case will be finalised in the light of feedback and presented to the board on the 5th of August. If members of this committee wish, a briefing on the Strategic Outline Business Case can be arranged for committee members before the board meeting. And I would ask you if that's what you would like, then perhaps if you could email us and let us know, then we can arrange that. I just want to add on the consultations, the online consultations. what we've seen in March and what we're seeing from the A10 are significant increases in the numbers of people who are taking part in these consultations. And I believe not only are we seeing an increase in the numbers of people, but in the types of people that are taking part in these consultations as well, because often we exclude people who regularly use the roads, etc., because the consultations are at times where it's difficult for them to get to. And I think having had 250 residents and businesses providing detailed comments on 7 options, I think that's an exceptional number. So I think what we will find is in the future that we will continue to use virtual consultations alongside, of course, the physical ones. But I think it's a great leap forwards in the way that these consultations are carried out. And what I would hope, given the government's agenda to try and speed up delivery of infrastructure, that if we are able to use online consultation, we should be able to cut down the amount of time that we put into consultation in any delivery of any scheme. And I think that would be a significant improvement for everybody. But it's early days. Cambourne to Cambridge bus routes. Following on from the Mayor's decision to improve bus services on the Cambourne corridor, 2 new services are being procured. A tender exercise has been conducted by the County Council at my request for a new service from Huntington to Cambridge Biomedical Campus, and has produced a successful bid that represents good value for money, although it has not proved possible to conclude the process in time for a report to come to this committee, unfortunately. We should aim to get the service in place for the new school term in September. I will therefore be consulting members of the committee in the next week before making a funding decision using mayoral powers in line with the Constitution. The Combined Authority has gone out to tender for a new bus link between Cambourne and Cambridge Science Park. These tenders close at the end of today, and we will then be evaluating the tender responses. We will now move on to the Combined Authority Forward Plan, which we are asked to note. Any comments, members? Okay, thank you. So we now have public questions. We've received, sorry, my apologies. We have 5 public questions received relating to item 2.2, CAM, Cambridge and Peterborough Combined Authority, Cambridge to Cambourne review against CAM sub-strategy. And I propose to take those at the start of the item. So we'll move on to item 2.1 on the agenda. And could I ask Roland Potter to introduce the budget and performance report, please?
Good morning. I'm not sure whether you can hear me. Yeah, that's right. Thank you. Thank you very much. So thank you for the opportunity of presenting the budget and performance report paper. There's a couple of key headlines. I'm just waiting for it to load on my screen. My apologies, everybody. Right, here we go. So the committee is asked to note the July budget and performance monitoring update. The revenue budget headline there is a saving of £99,000 against the A10 SOBC, identified primarily as the result of bringing this in-house and managing it internally. With regards to the capital budget, the headline here is that I'm sure members will recall in previous year we had a 28% underspend against capital budget. Our improved governance procedures and reporting procedures has addressed this, and we're now reporting in this report a 11% underspend. But a major factor of that is the Wisbech Access strategy line, where we've got a paper going to the business board later today, or later in this month, which will look to address a certain amount of funding and pushes £5.5 million into future years, which will take our underspend down to 1% underspend instead of 11%. So that's a significant change. There's an element here in relation to the CAM update and the CAM Partnership Board decision to look at a company structure in relation to the CAM, and there's some financial data within the table there in relation to that. There is a future paper to go to the August board in relation to that. Performance reporting, if I take you onto the performance reporting sheet, the headline here really is very much that there are 3 graphics that show a baseline and a target, and they relate to GVA, jobs and housing. And the important factor is that on all 3 of those indices, we're outperforming the baseline, so that's a positive. And in relation to the transport project profile, I'm pleased to report that we have predominantly greens against our entire transport portfolio, with some ambers and 1 red project. And on that basis, there is some greater detail in terms of train stations, motor vehicles, greenhouse, etc. But on that basis, I'll commend the report to the committee.
Thank you, Roland. Any comments, please, members? Councillor Van der Beer.
Get myself on mute. Thank you very much. So I did have a quick comment on the CAM Partnership Board, the CAM update. As Roland said, the CAM Partnership Board met. I mean, I think the characterisation in the report of the CAM Partnership Board, having identified that through the delivery subgroup that the CAM would benefit from a company structure, I think it isn't quite a full representation of what was discussed. I mean, I think there was certainly support for the need in time for a unified structure for CAM. I would certainly characterise it as saying that since I got at least, was that we needed to proceed further with the ABC before getting into the level of detail that certainly is being discussed in this report, with the imminent appointment of quite a significant staffing structure. But obviously that is a matter, as you say, for the board to discuss. I would be interested to know, though, what the current thinking is on the timings of the outline business case for CAM. Obviously, the report does make mention of all the alternative technological choices that are being considered, and how that might make an impact. So, if it's possible, I'd be interested to know what current thinking is on the ABC timings. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Van der Beer. Mr. Potter.
That's something that I wouldn't have the detail for, I'm afraid, in relation to this budget performance paper. I'll happily take it away as an item and ask for an update from the CAM team directly.
That'd be kind of you. Thanks so much.
Okay, perhaps Mr. Potter, you could inform the committee by email or with Councillor Van der Beer personally. I mean, it is clear that what we've done, we've given the new information that we received from the work from Dr. David Cleaveley and Professor John Miles and others, that has given a significant material change to delivery of CAM Metro and the price of CAM Metro, etc. And of course, COVID-19. It's imperative that we link those into the outline business case. But that work is ongoing, as Councillor Van der Beer is aware. But I think Mr. Potter will get back to you, Aidan, with a clear timeline. Councillor Nish. Councillor Nish, I'm afraid you're muted.
I'd lowered the hand, not muted. Apologies, Mr. Mine's just a quite simple one. It's just been a little bit pedantic on Appendix 1, and there's possibly a perfectly good reason for it, and it might even be down to politics, shall we say. Is the colours change between districts on the different graphs? So you look at one and Huntingdonshire might be grey, and you look at another might be yellow. It was just a minor thing when I was looking through it. I tended to sort of flick across on that. There might be a valid reason, and as I say, it might be a political one. People don't like to be certain colours, maybe.
I'm sure Mr. Potter, can you help us with the colour?
I don't think there was any specific reasoning behind the colour choices, but I will take it back to the performance monitoring team, the PMO team, and have it looked into and respond accordingly, Mayor.
Okay, there's no further comments, so I'd like to thank Mr. Potter and the team for keeping us in budget balance and also for keeping schemes on target as well. Your work is highly appreciated, and I'd like to thank you personally. So we'll move on to item 2.2, and I would like to invite Dr. Marion Treacy to ask her question. Dr. Treacy, am I pronouncing your name correctly? I feel I may be making a mistake.
So it's Dr. Treacy, thank you.
Treacy, my apologies. Please go ahead with your question.
So my question is, with another pause in plans for the ill-fated C2C busway, the Combined Authority has a final opportunity to consider game-changing alterations to major infrastructure in Cambridgeshire rather than busways unlikely to bring about modal shift. With upgrading on a further section of the A428 west of Caxton now being consulted on, I'd like to ask the Mayor if he's considering taking the C2C route via the A428 corridor to a reconfigured Girton interchange and into the West Cambridge site via Eddington, with interchanges south of the biomedical campus via the M11 corridor and onto the science park via the A14 corridor. This would solve many of the transport issues to the north and west of Cambridge and leave the environment and historic setting of the city's western approach intact. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Treacy. And the Combined Authority Transport Committee have been asked to approve and release the CPCA report to the Greater Cambridge Partnership for their review and consideration. If this recommendation is endorsed, we will work with our colleagues at GCP to review the current C2C alignment against possible alternatives to incorporate many of the amendments identified in the CPCA report. Certainly, we are already undertaking work at a high level on the regional CAM network, routes to St Neots, Alconbury, Mildenhall and Haverhill as an extension to the work being undertaken by the CPCA on CAM regional route work west between Cambridge and St Neots. An initial high-level review of how any amendments to the current C2C proposal can be incorporated is now underway, and this work is currently ongoing. Specific details regarding possible alternative route alignments and route options, such as utilising the A428, A14, and modifications to the Girton interchange, etc., cannot yet be provided. But I just want to make it clear, I think we really need to stop talking about the route from Cambridge to St Neots in small chunks and small sections. This is, without doubt, the CAM Metro route is St Neots to Haverhill and goes under Cambridge. And if we break it up into small sections, we lose the impact of what can be achieved through CAM Metro. And it is absolutely right that we should be considering a route, as you've suggested, along the A428, and we will absolutely be doing that. Do you have a follow-up, Dr. Treacy?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Our next question is from Jane Rennick. Jane is unable to be here today, so the Democratic Services Officer will read her question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Will the board please take into account the effect of COVID on the volume of commuter traffic using the A3103? With more people working from home, the traffic coming into Cambridge down the A130 will be lighter, a robust solution to the problem of traffic congestion. And we would also be an opportunity to develop the possibilities of major long-term infrastructure decisions.
Okay, did everybody get that question? Because on my computer, unfortunately, we dropped out of it. Would we like to read that again, please? Seeing
sorry,
none.
yes.
So, well, it wasn't your fault, it's the internet's to blame, obviously.
So the question is, will the board please take into account the effect of COVID on the volume of commuter traffic using the A1303? With more people working from home, the traffic coming into Cambridge down the A1303 will be lighter. This will give more time to consider an interim on-road bus solution to the problem of traffic congestion, and would also be an opportunity to develop the possibilities of major long-term infrastructure decisions.
Thank you. And what I'm going to do before I answer that is I'm going to invite the next speaker, Gabriel Fox, to address the committee, and then I will answer both together. Gabriel, thank you for joining us, and you have 3 minutes.
Mute. Hello, I hope you can hear me.
I can, yes, carry on.
Thank you very much. My question is as follows. In the 5 long years that the C2C project has been running, no formal scheme has ever been worked up for an on-road option on the most contentious part of the C2C route between Madingley March Roundabout and the West Cambridge site. As a result, decision makers, residents and other stakeholders are still arguing about critical issues relating to feasibility, transport performance and value for money. The longer term picture with regard to public transport in and around Cambridge, especially west of Cambridge, is extremely unclear, with major schemes such as East West Rail, the Cambridge Autonomous Metro and an upgrade to the Girton interchange in various stages of commitment or consideration. Until these are clearer, an interim, ideally low-cost public transport solution of acceptable quality is desperately needed for residents of communities such as Cambourne. In view of the decision by GCP to consider alternative routes for the proposed C2C public transport scheme, would the combined authority consider funding or contributing to the costs of the development of an interim on-road design for this part of the route, prepared by suitably qualified independent transport professionals, to enable decision makers to be properly informed and make a robust evidence-based decision? And just to add that since I submitted the question, I have received a letter from a local, well actually a nationwide transport consultancy called TPA, who also do have a Cambridge office and presence. And they have provided advice that an on-road scheme is eminently feasible and could be just as effective as the current scheme that has previously been on the table for an off-road route. And then they've identified a maximum ballpark figure of £18,000 to provide a detailed route alignment. I did circulate this letter, but if people haven't seen it, then obviously it can be circulated further.
Yes, thank you very much. So I've already said that the Combined Authority will provide the necessary leadership and take responsibility for future transport projects in the area as part of delivering transport projects across Cambridge and Peterborough. And we are planning to bring forward, as I mentioned earlier, Gabriel, I don't know if you were in at the start of the meeting, but we are planning to bring forward new bus routes between Cambourne and the major employment sites around Cambridge. And we're setting out our policy for a 21st century CAM that will bring clean, rapid transport and sustainable growth to the whole region. And I just want to reiterate that part of the reason why the outline business case for CAM has been extended is to bring forward the COVID impact into that business case. So we are absolutely looking at the impact of COVID at the right time before we make decisions on major transport solutions. But I also want to reiterate that the CAM vision is a whole Cambridgeshire vision, and it's about not just current sustainability in transport routes, but it's about growth, sustainable growth of the entire county. And it's about making sure that we make the best possible decisions around housing growth, business growth, and the economy, as well as public transport. And obviously, to that end, I've also engaged Baroness Brown into working forward plans for the best possible environmental response as well. So I think this is the problem, Gabriel. This is absolutely, you are responding and right to do so, to a Cambridge to Cambourne route, and yet the problem that we have is not Cambridge to Camborne. The problem that we have is wider. And as I said, this is why I want to talk about St Neots to Haverhill and Cambridge to Mildenhall and Alconbury and up to Chatteris. And this is why the CAM network is so key. And I think that if we continue to look at transport for Cambridgeshire in very, very small, focused, broken down areas, we will continue with a broken policy for the county. So I think that your points are very well made, Gabriel, but I just want to explain to you why we're looking at this one CAM solution for Cambridgeshire. I'm happy for you to come back for a second question.
No, that's fine. I think everybody would support a unified system. Obviously, we're just very interested right now in the acute situation that affects west of Cambridge, but if that can be resolved efficiently, then obviously we would all be happy. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you for your question. We will now move on to the next question from Mr. Terry Spencer. Unfortunately, Mr. Spencer is unable to join us, so his question will be read again by the Democratic Services Officer. So,
thank you, Mr. Mayor. The question is as follows. In relation to the Jacobs C2C review against CAM sub-strategy, what is the opinion of the CPCA about the fact the Greater Cambridge Partnership has prepared their preferred option for the Camborne to Cambridge busway before the CPCA has published a detailed plan for the CAM? That's it.
Okay, thank you. So to date, the CAM programme has been historically siloed into fragmented sections, and this is partly due to the long history of the initial Greater Cambridge Partnership City Access Deal projects and their subsequent evolution to form the initial integral solutions of the overall CAM project. The CAM Partnership Board recently informed of the One CAM proposals and the future consideration of setting up a company to manage the entire project. Bringing all sectional projects under this One CAM strategy will allow better planning and design. The One CAM approach is about the big picture, grasping that CAM is a vision for the future of our whole region. It will provide a new green network to move people from houses that they can afford to jobs that they want to have. We have some more work to do to fill out these plans, but there is a huge benefit in moving the whole scheme forward in a smooth, strategic and unified way. And I think I just want to make clear as well as part of this answer that I'm absolutely committed to the development of Bourne Airfield, and I'm absolutely committed to what the university is trying to achieve in West Cambridge. What I don't want to do is alienate the rest of the county by concentrating on one small patch. And it's about opening up St Neots, Camborne, areas of South Cambridgeshire, areas of the Fens, of course, to sharing the growth and sharing the wealth of the Cambridge area. And it's that classic phrase, levelling up, that we talk about. And in many ways, Cambridgeshire is a microcosm of what the UK has become as a whole, with a dominant economy in the south, and yet really bad links to the north of the county. CAM Metro is entirely designed to try and deliver a system that spreads the wealth and spreads the opportunity across the whole of Cambridgeshire. And if we begin to focus on one CAM approach, or a single unified vision for Cambridgeshire transport, we will see the benefits across the varying sectors of the population. One final question on this item is from Mr. Alistair Burford. Mr. Burford, I'm waiting for you to appear. Good morning, Mr. Burford. Thank you for your question, and you have 3 minutes. Mr. Burford, unfortunately, you're still muted.
Sorry.
We can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
We certainly can.
I'll even put myself on video if you like. How's that? Yes, I'm referring to the Jacobs report that does actually refer to the small section between Camborne and the city. And whilst it's pleasing to see that the report has recognised the impact the GCP preferred route has on the village of Coton and Westfields, I'd like to ask why the authors of the report have not considered, firstly, the proximity to properties, probably 25, maybe 30 metres of the route along St Neots Road, Hardwick, and secondly, the very obvious environmental damage on one of Cambridge's most prominent landscapes, stretching from Magley Mulch down through to Coton Village, damage which will be irreparable. The green corridors of Cambridge that run into the city have been recognised by the LDA design in part of this as being part of the historic core of Cambridge, and can be seen across open ground and should be safeguarded. That was reported in the Cambridgeshire Green Infrastructure Strategy Report, June 2011. Not only that, the very first paper published by Cambridge Preservation Society talked about this area and suggested that the view from both above and below should be preserved. And whilst I accept that this is the most direct route, surely you should be demanding that a less damaging route should be recommended. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Murphy. And I'll refer you to some of the answers I've already given on the corridor, of course. And I can't help but be in agreement with you that citing a major transport route very, very close to existing housing seems to be a little bit odd, to say the least. But anyway, the review of the current C2C proposals against the local transport CAM sub-strategy has been high level in nature. A number of amendments to the current proposals have been identified, including committing to electric zero carbon emissions and vehicles, and connecting to the future East-West rail station at Cambourne, as well as minimising potential environmental impacts. Within the local transport plan CAM sub-strategy, CAM sub-objective CAM EV1 states, CAM should minimise adverse impacts on conservation areas, heritage and natural community assets, including protecting the character of villages. Whilst Coton and the Westfields were specifically mentioned, this objective is applicable to all locations along the proposed C2C and wider CAM network proposals. And as I said, just to reiterate, we will be looking at route options that are not the current proposal. And again, I will say once more that we've got to stop breaking up CAM into small sections and look at it as a single network.
I hear what you're saying, but this was specific to that particular area.
I appreciate that, Mr. Burford, and your points are well made, and we are listening.
Thank you.
Thank you. So that's the end of the public questions. Could I now ask our Chief Executive, Kim Sawyer, to introduce the report?
Good morning, Mayor. Good morning, members. Good morning. Thank you for inviting me to the meeting. I don't think there is much really that I need to say to introduce this report. I think it's fairly self-explanatory, and I think also you've heard from several of the questioners that the point of the report is understood. I think there are just two points I'd like to make, though, before you begin your debate. And the first one is to really reiterate what the Mayor has said, that the importance of this report was, in effect, to look at how that very first arm of the CAM routes were developing. And it is important that we see that in the context of a Haverhill to St Neots route. And it's a very small section, but of course how that very small section of the first CAM route develops is important to the development of the whole scheme. and therefore it is important that we understood how that was performing against the objectives of the local transport plan that we had approved in February, and also the CAM sub-strategy, which was emerging as a way to provide greater guidance to the GCP in particular in developing the CAM. And in relation to the local transport plan, I think it's important to understand that the combined authority has a responsibility for the transport strategy for its whole area. And that is why we have a local transport plan. And it's clear to understand that that arises from a duty, a statutory duty that we have, which is to promote and encourage safe, integrated, efficient and economic transport in our area. So it's clear as against that duty that it is vital that the combined authority, as the local transport authority, does undertake an assessment of major transport schemes and understands and if necessary approves those schemes before they progress further. So I think in the context of those 2 points, then you have the report before you. It is the conclusions of the report are quite clear that it doesn't currently meet the requirements of the LTP. The recommendation before you is to note the findings of the report, its conclusions and recommendations, and approve the release of that report to the GCP so that they can take that away as they develop their scheme and understand and incorporate that into the development of their scheme. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, that's my introduction. I think, Mr. Mayor, you're still on mute.
Oh, how embarrassing. Thank you, Sawyer. Councillor Massey.
Hi, yes, I've got 3 questions, which is it okay if I just read them all at once and then get the answers at the end? Yep. Okay, so the first question is that the CPCA requested Jacobs to conduct the review of the C2C rather than the CPCA commissioning. I think this is quite important because the question really is, why were Jacobs chosen as opposed to any other consultants that could have been requested or indeed commissioned? Would it not have been difficult for Jacobs to give it a totally independent review, given that it developed the outline business case? So that's one. Question 2, the C2C route is integral to the location of the West Portal location. So when will the information about the locations of the portals be available? And thirdly, actually I like this 4th, but thirdly, there has been a range of assumptions by Jacobs on the aspects of the CAM that's quite yet not unknown. So I do wonder how it's come to the assumption that the GCP is not accurately reflecting the CAM proposal. For instance, the route at Campbell when the details of the East-West Rail Station is yet unknown. It makes statements to suggest that the GCP should be more accurately reflecting the CAM proposal, but yet we don't have any information about the route alignment, vent shafts, portal locations and stations. So the question really is when will those details be known, and what's the programme to bring these elements together? So when would you be possible to start develop models of funding and viability? And without this information, how can Jacobs draw a conclusion? And then finally, it's just it's more of a point than a question. The Coton route was agreed in October 2018 by the Combined Authority Board. I just wanted to highlight that, and that's all me done.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Massey. Ms Sawyer, would you like to come back on Councillor Massey's points, please?
Thank you, Mayor. I can't deal with all of the questions, but I have Mr. Graham Brampton here as well, who can help me deal with some of the questions. But in relation to the first item, the reason we chose Jacobs is because when we had the discussion with the GCP, we recognised that in order to, given the state of the development of the current route by the GCP, we needed to move quickly in order to conduct a review of the strategy against the scheme against the sub-strategy. And therefore it was felt that it would be better to pick a contractor who had knowledge and experience, because that would give them a great head start in being able to review this. One of the conditions that we imposed when we commissioned Jacobs to carry out the review was that it should be independent, and that they should take away and review all the information available to them independently of any officer involvement by the CPCA. And that was clearly impressed upon them, and they also impressed upon us during the course of the development of this report, that it was independent, and therefore it may make findings that neither we or the GCP may agree with, and we accepted that as part of the conditions of the contract. So that is why we chose Jacobs to do that. They were selected in accordance with all of our requirements under our constitution in relation to our procurement rules, and so we observed all the necessary governance measures in order to select them. In relation to the location of the portals, I'll hand over to Mr. Bampton for that.
Thank you, Kim. Yes, I mean, quite rightly, as you said, Councillor Massey, the integration of the C2C route and the Western portal location do go hand in hand. So we are currently finalising the current design activities for the route option, which includes confirming the preferred locations for the portals, vent shafts, station locations, etc. As the Mayor's already indicated, the OBC period has been extended because obviously due to the recent discussions at the CAM Partnership Board and the paper that's been produced by the Technical Advisory Committee, also the, as the Mayor's mentioned, the impacts of COVID-19 and the overall One CAM strategy that's currently evolving, we're taking the opportunity to actually reassess the direction that the tunnel core and the overall program is going to take. So we will be taking the opportunity to pause and reassess the implications of those items that are mentioned. And as part of the review that Jacobs are doing as part of the wider CAM network on Regional Route West between Cambridge and St Neots, we will be taking an overall view of how the network can potentially link up, and obviously any implications on the locations of the various portals will need to be considered in due course. Again, the portal locations at the university, at the south, at the north, etc., need to be done in conjunction with key stakeholders that may potentially be affected by these locations. So that work is currently ongoing.
That's fine. No, the other thing was the Coton route, and of course, Councillor Massey, yes, we did try very hard to work alongside the GCP on the route between Cambridge and Camborne. But of course, we found that we could not accept the proposals because of a number of issues, including proximity to Coton, some of the issues around Hardwick, and the lack of the solution at Camborne. So that joint working wasn't satisfactory, and didn't provide what was necessary from our perspective. And when challenged, of course, we did request the independent report from Jacobs, which has shown what it's shown. So have you got any further comments, Councillor Massey?
Just one further question. I do wonder why we've not had a speaker from the GCP speaking on this item. Were they asked to come to attend?
I do not believe they were asked. Councillor, Ms. Sawyer, could you?
No. So we didn't. This is our report. It was commissioned by the Combined Authority to fulfil our duty as the local transport authority. That's why the proposal is that we send this report to the GCP. If GCP had wanted to come and speak on the report, then that would have been open to them. We do have, as you've seen this morning, a platform for public speakers to come and make their views known to the committee. There was no such request as far as I'm aware. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, and I think what Councillor Massey has highlighted here is a bit of the nonsense. This report, by the way, Councillor Massey, has been put together from what's in the public domain. The Combined Authority has never been consulted officially on C2C. It's never been given any documents officially on C2C. It's never been asked its opinion officially on C2C. There has never been any representation from the GCP to the Combined Authority on any of its schemes in official capacity. So although we are the Transport Authority, for example, I'm aware that the GCP are working on a route between Addenbrooke's and Granta Park, but I've never been introduced to that scheme at any stage, and nor has anybody else at the Combined Authority. So it's a bit, you know, we're taking it upon ourselves to review from what's in the public domain, not within any other capacity. Councillor van der Weyden.
Thank you very much. Just in relation to what the question you just had about this GCP representation, I should make it absolutely clear that I am here as the South Cambridgeshire representative, as the representative of South Cambridge District Council rather than the GCP, and so therefore I'm not speaking on behalf of the board. I don't think, I hope nothing I say will be the board will have an issue with, but I just want to make that absolutely clear. This report and this discussion, I think, is a really useful exercise in helping focus the debate on the important issues of concern. And I think we can all agree that sustained and substantive dialogue between the CPCA, the GCP and other partners as well is absolutely essential for making progress on all the huge and transformative infrastructure investments that we're considering, regardless of what's happening in the past. And I think there has been certainly more dialogue than you just saying, James, but nevertheless it can undoubtedly be significantly improved. And I think this report and the review are an important part of doing that. Effectively, we can use it as an excellent trigger for deepening that dialogue. The report and the review are not in themselves a framework for doing further reviews of this and discussion about it. And so I think if we're going to successfully pursue this dialogue further, the most urgent matter is to discuss how we approach it. I think it's the decision that we're going to be making today is quite appropriate, that we're asking, as this committee, GCP, which is the delivery body for this section, Cambridge, to respond to these recommendations. From your comments, I think you can agree, you would agree as well, that the GCP can't be doing this in an isolated manner, and that we need ongoing engagement from all the partners, and especially you, Chair. On the face of it, some of the recommendations from James mean that it's quite difficult to make a decision to proceed with any part of the current Camborne to Cambridge scheme without resolving how it complies, in particular the issues around route alignment that have been raised by Jacobs and then especially by you in your comments this morning. Some of the questions I'll come back to, I think don't need to prevent progress, but some of them certainly do. But that does mean that it is really urgent that we make this progress in our discussions, so that we avoid much more severe consequential delays to the delivery of this infrastructure, which is really needed as quickly as possible. So I think the best thing now, and possibly the only thing that's got a realistic chance of moving things forward in a timely manner, is to have a really robust and open review of these route options we'll be discussing, with a new approach that doesn't just repeat work that's already been done, because a lot of work has been done. It's more about the approach than the actual work that's to be done. And I think this has to be done in public and with the public. And if we're to maintain public confidence in our work, we do need to seek broad engagement in this review process from the outset. So I've got 4 questions, one of which partially covered by Nikki Massey earlier. So my first is to ask all members of the committee, and obviously in particular you, Chair, but all members, to be ready to contribute to this review process that we're doing now. And I think if we as a committee just wait for GCP to come back as requested in this paper, and then react effectively cold to what is being presented, then it really don't think bodes well. I think if we're going to get it right, but if we do get it right, we can make some good progress on this. So my second question relates to something you said in your press release, and which you referred to, and I just wanted to do some clarification on that. It's that the Mayoral Combined Authority has already begun a high-level review of the current preferred C2C route alignment against possible alternatives. And I just wondered if you could clarify the scope of that review, when you expect to report, how it's different to either the Jacobs review or the Arup review, and how that can feed into this review process that I'm talking about and that GCP will be doing. Thirdly, in the committee report on paragraph 2.4, it says that some of the potential amendments have already been identified within the latest C2C proposals. So to ensure that the GCP's work is as efficient as possible, I think it would be useful to know a bit more detail about what the CPCA is thinking on that, what information how can we get some more information on that? And will there be an updated Jacobs report, or will that basically be part of the dialogue between us? And finally, coming back to a point that Nikki made, but I'd like to come back to because I don't think we've quite got to the bottom of it. In terms of the route at Camborne, clearly the details of the East West Rail station location, the regional extensions of CAM are not known, so it's impossible to, with the best will in the world, to plan precisely for. So I mean, we all agree that CAM as a whole, and C2C in particular, need to integrate really closely with East West Rail. So it'd be useful to know what assumptions are being made at the moment that lead to these conclusions on that Camborne section. Then I think then obviously the next stages we need to be then talking together to East West Rail in particular about because the choices that all parties need to make in order to ensure that integration. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Aidan. I'm going to answer the first and the last of those questions, and then I'm going to hand over to Kim Sawyer and Graham to answer the more technical points. First of all, East West Rail integration, as you would expect, I've already had an initial meeting with Rob Brighouse, who's running the East West Rail project. And the reality is there are two sites that are being looked at for an East West Rail hub with the CAM Metro, and they're very keen to make sure that they create a hub or two hubs with the CAM Metro, one at Camborne and one at the Biomedical Campus. And the two sites that have been suggested is west of Camborne, to the southwest of Camborne, and to the north of Camborne. Now, it's very much my view, and I believe the view of the local members and local population, that a north of Camborne hub with the East West Rail is the preferred position, and that's the one that we will be lobbying for. But as I said, we've only had one meeting so far, Councillor van der Veer, so others will come from that. Secondly, on your first point, I think that's a fair point, and I'd like to take this opportunity to challenge the new chairman of the Greater Cambridge Partnership, Mr. Roger Hickford, to work with me to create a single governance structure that will enable us to deliver a unified vision. And I will hopefully begin to engage more to get to that unified vision. If I could bring in Ms. Sawyer and Mr. Banton, please, Banton, to answer the other 2 points on scope and the detail of the CPCA.
Thank you. In relation to a high-level route alignment against possible alternatives, we did actually start to think about what the possible alternatives could be. The issue I think we faced is that as we said, we are looking at a CAM Metro route, which is effectively Haverhill to St Neots. And therefore we need to see this in the context of, at least for the CAM Metro, of a route from West Cambridge to St Neots at the very least. And that's the proposals that we were looking at. We started to look at what, if we were bringing a Metro link forward for Cambridge to St Neots, what that might be. Clearly, we don't have any dates against that, Councillor van der Weyer, because we need to look at this in the context of a complete one CAM network. But clearly, and pleased to hear that GCP are willing to engage with us, and if there was engagement, we could think about exploring those alternatives and bringing a more definite timetable around that alternative route, which would assist the shorter C2C part of that route. And in relation to paragraph 2.4, yes, we are willing to, quite happy to take away and identify in writing what we think the certainly the proposals put to the GCP Joint Assembly were already talking about in relation to addressing some of the issues raised by the Jacobs report around the non-compliance with the C2C. So we're quite happy to identify those. One of those, of course, was around whether there was, we saw the change between February and June with the Cambourne route being identified as an interim route through Cambourne rather than as a permanent route. So we're quite happy to identify those, take that away and identify those in writing. And then, as we've heard, if we are looking as though we are moving towards greater discussions between us and the GCP about closer working together, then we can start to accelerate some of these issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Vanderbilt. And Councillor Bates is the next speaker. Councillor Bates.
Thank you, Mayor. I do take on board your comments about a one metro. I think it's absolutely crucial for the development of the transport within this county.
Could I ask Councillor Bates just to speak up slightly, Mr. Mayor?
Apologies, I switched off my mic. I hope that is clearer.
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. Apologies. So going back really to what you said earlier, Mary, in respect of the one metro, you know, routes from Haverhill through St Neots, through to Chatteris, Alconbury, I think we would all support that. Apologies for that as well. Okay, my wife will pick that up shortly, hopefully. So I think we all would support that approach, okay, in developing a one scheme across the whole of the county. That's absolutely crucial. So I'm going to go a little bit to what I call what is the actual Jacobs report. And I think East West Rail has been mentioned. I think it is crucial. You've obviously had some discussions. It is crucial to actually know where the station is going, which is where the preferred route will be. And I think that is absolutely crucial for GCP and the Combined Authority and the communities to understand where that station will be, and also the station in St Neots, because the two would be linked. So absolutely crucial to understand that as we go forward. And also, really, you've mentioned earlier, Mary, in respect to Bourne and the 3,500 homes there, it's absolutely crucial that we encompass what is proposed for those housing development on that particular thing. There's an outstanding planning application already with South Cambs on that. So it's important to, if you like, link in that development over time as well with transport hubs. And really the West Cambridge, obviously, with the jobs on that particular site is also very crucial. So welcome that opportunity to, if you like, link the hubs for stations in St Neots and Cambourne, but also for the development of the housing, 3,500, and the jobs on the West Cambridge side. And if Cambridge, I'm here as a representative of Cambridge County Council, and if we can assist the two organisations, I volunteer that to give any assistance that is required to actually move the whole project forward. I have one question, actually. Those were more observations, which is actually about some timing. Obviously, we're going to hopefully approve the recommendations. I don't get a sense particularly as to when things might happen. I heard Graham talk about work which is ongoing with the technical work with David Cleaveney. I'm not quite clear about timing at this particular point, Mr. Chairman, and so that's really my only question, is some indication as to how long all this might take would be useful, I think. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I mean, obviously, we've always been working through a 2023 to 2029 construction for Cam Metro, and that's exactly where we are. When it comes to timing and investment, of course, we've already announced today that we're putting in 2 brand new bus routes directly to the major hubs, including West Cambridge, of course, and Cambridge North and the biomedical campus, and major employment hubs. And you'll be aware, Councillor Bates, I've already spoken to Councillor Count and Councillor Hickford about the potential of looking at some some bus routes, or potentially some bus routes in the Madingley Hill area, to enable those transport networks to deliver. We'd also, as you would expect, Councillor Bates, we've also been in conversation with the developers at Bourne Airfield, and we understand their timeline of development and how many houses they expect to have built by the time Cam Metro is completely developed, and that's less than a third of the total capacity of development on the site. And of course, with Cam Metro, they will not just be linked between Bourne Airfield and West Cambridge, but they will be linked to the East Coast Main Line at St Neots, and also, as will West Cambridge, into the university in the centre and to all the other business parks around the Cambridge area. So the opportunity for success of Bourne Airfield and of West Cambridge is enhanced significantly by the development of Cam Metro. And you have my commitment on the 2023 to 2029 timeline of delivery for Cam Metro, and you have my commitment to those two employment sites and housing sites that you mentioned. Councillor Schumann.
Thank you, Mayor. I make no apologies for being a little bit parochial here and just reiterating your absolute comment or need for this Cam Metro to be looked at as a holistic approach, because it is vitally important for the councillors that represent areas like Fenland and Huntingdon, as well as Huntingdon and East Cambridgeshire, that we do have a holistic approach and don't start breaking it down to the benefit of small pockets of development. We're experiencing huge development across the rest of Cambridgeshire, particularly around East Cambridgeshire and pockets of it. And you and I both know, Mayor, that we've often been blighted by the borders, these sort of make-pretend borders that we call counties, where there are major infrastructure deficits in transport and other areas. So it's absolutely essential that we look at this as a one project approach. And I support your comments around that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Schumann. So we have no further speakers. And the committee is asked, first of all, to note the findings and conclusions and recommendations as outlined in the CPCA report of the review of the current C2C project, and approve the release of the CPCA report to GCP for their review and consideration. So members, perhaps if you could signal by raising your hand electronically if you are in favour. So I have votes from Councillors Bates, Nish, Schumann, Councillor van der Weyer, Councillor Massey and Councillor Seaton. I have no vote from Councillor Hiller, so I assume that, can I assume you're against, Councillor Hiller?
You might have frozen.
I think Councillor Hiller's frozen, which is rather frustrating for him and for us. So let's, because of democracy, let's give Councillor Hiller a minute or two, perhaps, to reboot. As I said in the beginning of the meeting, we are open to the vagaries of technology. So please apologise. Please accept my apologies for this. Apologies for this minor hiccup.
Miss Mayor, she seemed to have voice just now, so I don't know whether she still has got voice.
Councillor Hiller, are you back in the building?
Mr. Mayor, could I just offer some solution
Yes,
here?
please.
I think you might want to take advice from the monitoring officer, but I think this is a vote where it's a simple majority vote. So you don't. It's not a requirement to have the Cambridgeshire and Peterborough vote. Obviously, it would be useful to have it, but not necessary. If you felt it was essential that you offered Councillor Hiller the opportunity, I wonder if the monitoring officer could advise us whether or not you could actually adjourn the vote until later in the meeting when Councillor Hiller is able to join. You have had the substantive debate, and therefore it is only the vote that remains to be had, and it appears that Councillor Hiller was present for the majority of the debate. So
sorry, could I also say that the next two items do actually relate to Peterborough, so I imagine that Councillor Hiller would absolutely want to be part of that debate, even if he can't vote on this. So I think it is important that we sort out this technology problem.
What I will do is I will telephone Councillor Hiller and ask him to see how far away he is from getting a signal. So I've just had a chat with Peter, and he is in favour of this item, so he's happy for it to go through. But I've also suggested that we bring forward, because he can hear us, but his screen isn't working, so he's going to reboot his computer. So I've suggested that we bring forward item 2.5 and 2.6 on the agenda while Peter sorts out his computer. So if we could go, please, with the agreement of the committee, to item 2.5, which is the M11 Junction 8, and Mr. Potter is going to introduce the report.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, committee. This is a very short presentation paper for the committee to note the current situation in relation to the M11 Junction 8. This is a scheme that the Combined Authority was contributing £1 million of growth deal money to Essex County Council in support of their proposals of redesign of the M11 Junction 8, which is a crucial junction to Stansted Airport. We've been in constant dialogue with Essex. They had gone out to tender on a cost estimate of £9 million, just over, for this works. The engagement slowed up somewhat whilst this tender process took place, and dialogue dropped off a little bit. We then reached out again to understand what the situation was, and it became clear from Essex, they were very open and transparent and advised us that the tender costs that came back were considerably greater than the original cost estimate. And having sought all potential funding routes, they didn't have a project to proceed at this stage. We asked for formal notification of that, which we received, and we put that back through the growth deal team, who will be putting it in their paper to the business board on the recommendation that this £1 million be brought back into the growth deal fund and reallocated to appropriate projects. But this means that this project will no longer proceed as a transport scheme. So it's a paper to notify the committee of the close down of this scheme, effectively. And I commend that to the committee.
Anybody wishing to comment, or is it self-explanatory? Okay, so therefore that we're asked to note, and as there's no comment on this, we will duly note and move on to item 2.6. Mehmet is going to talk to us about the March Area Transport Strategy Progress. Mehmet.
Thank you, Mayor. Hopefully everyone can hear me.
We can.
Yeah, brilliant, excellent. Morning everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to present the paper for March, Area Transport Strategy. I guess the recommendation that I'm making today is to obviously note the progress that's been made since my last meeting, committee meeting in March, in the month of March. Also the outcomes of the virtual public consultation as well. Obviously we're in a unique opportunity at the moment and unique time at the moment where we've had to go out virtually to actually, you know, take some views from the public in terms of some of the work that we've been doing. Also to note the updated programme of the quick wins, because from the March meeting when we met, there was a list of quick wins, just to update you on those, and also some additional quick wins that could be added to this list. And then a recommendation to the CPCA board for the commencement of the OBC, the outline business case, but also the approval and drawdown of £1 million to basically start that work. I guess since March, the presentation to committee in March that I gave was obviously recommendation that we go out to public consultation. Obviously COVID-19 hit, and you know, us, the CPCA and the team at the County Council and FDC obviously had to think slightly differently about how we were going to go out and, you know, communicate some of the work, some of the good work that we've done. So we looked at this virtual room. So I'm hoping that you all saw that virtual room, and it's, you know, it was open between 15th of May and ended the 28th of June. I must say that in terms of some of the numbers that we received, I think it was relatively positive. I think it was really positive. I do, considering the situation that we're in. You know, with having over 4,000 visits to the site and responses back to the survey of over 100, you know, I think that's pretty positive, considering in the previous rounds of consultation, we received a very, very low number compared to what we've received now. More further work is going into actually looking at the analysis, but I guess the crux of the responses in summary that we've got back is that, you know, in terms of the options that we're looking at, there's a sense of acceptance of the options that we're doing. And obviously, you know, we are still at the very early stages of a option assessment report, where we will go then into, obviously, my recommendations, we go straight to outline business case, where we will develop those options further. We will, and the view is of the group and the team that we're working with is that if health and safety permits, obviously we'll go out and do a public facing event. However, if not, then we'll be looking at other ways to actually go out and speak to people. You know, the room itself that we had for March, we can upscale this room. We can as a bit further, so it allows more interaction with the public, and we'll think very differently, I think, next time, because obviously outline business case stage is in sort of business case sense is slightly higher the stakes in terms of trying to get responses back. So just touching on the quick wins programme, in the appendices I've provided an update in terms of where we are, where we're on track to delivery of these options, these quick win schemes before the end of the budget period of 2021. In one of the quick win schemes was looking at the walking and cycling strategy, which was completed, and what's fallen out of that is again another list of quick wins that we could look at delivering. A bit of work is being done at the moment by the team, but the view that I'm obviously bringing to committee is that there is there's another phase of quick wins that we could be looking at trying to deliver. So, you know,
there's a lot of work around the quick win side of stuff. So I guess the crux of my recommendation is that, you know, with all the work that's going on in this area, and I guess, you know, trying to move forward in these times, we move into the outline business case stage and request a drawdown to the board of £1 million. That's me, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Members? Councillor Seaton.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. First of all, I'd like to give my thanks for this very positive report, which obviously is extremely important to March and to Fenland in general. I think there is you know, a lot of work gone into this, and you know, obviously I support this paper, and I hope that it will be supported by the members of the board. So thank you, Mehmet, for all the work and your team have done, and you know, I'm very pleased to see such a positive report presented to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Seaton. Councillor Nish.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I totally agree. I think it's a very good report. I'm sure much wanted for the March area and Fenland. I'd like to mention Fenland again. And just one question I have really is, with the virtual, I mean, looking ahead for other strategies, transport strategies, with the virtual one, how much response do you get from businesses? Because I can understand you've got some really positive and a lot of responses in general. I just wondered how, with, you know, businesses not being available, were you able to clarify as to how many businesses managed to respond to that? Just as for information, really. Thank you.
Yeah. I don't have the details on me from businesses. However, the strategy at this stage was we went live with the virtual room, and again with the FDC and the CCC team, we actually did some mail shots to certain key stakeholders and key businesses as well. So we did see a response spike when those emails went out, and we followed those emails. We followed up those emails, I think, 2 weeks after we sent the first email. So we can probably correspond those to which businesses they were, but I just don't have that information. But again, you know, at the OBC stage, I feel that in terms of consulting, and if we're in this sort of situation where, you know, where we are still social distancing and there's still, you know, measures in place, we're going to have a very clear strategy about how we actually go out and talk to people, businesses, and our key stakeholders. So I think, from my opinion, you know, working with the County Council and Fenland District Council, this project has been an amazing part to actually get to this stage.
Can I just ask a question, Mehmet? How many written responses have we had as part of the the online work?
Yeah, so my paper indicates it's 111 responses to the survey. The survey has been left open, it has, and we've actually still had a trickle through of responses. I think it's nearly at around 120 now, so which, you know, all responses are going to be good, and it's going to help us move forward as part of the outline business case.
And is it possible to say how many responses we would tend to get in a normal physical consultation?
Yeah, so from previous experience, you know, if you get 1 or 2% response rate from people from doing actually a face-to-face event, you know, I think it's pretty positive. I think in terms of the 111, 120 that we've received, I think compared to what we had previously when we went out, I think we only had 1 or 2 responses we did to the previous consultation that we did in terms of this work that we were going into, and that was a year ago or so. It was so. I think it's pretty positive considering where we are. Considering where we are with COVID, I think it's really good. It is.
Well, I mean, having a year ago having 1 or 2 written responses to having 120 now, I think it's a fantastic result. So congratulations to you and all of your team on putting this together. and obviously this is a learning process, and we'll get better and better at it, obviously.
Yep.
But I cannot imagine there will ever be a consultation again that isn't online. And given the numbers of responses that are coming in, it's absolutely fantastic. So well done.
Thank you.
Okay, I have nobody else who has indicated to speak, but I need for this, there is a vote, so I will need a proposer and seconder, please. Councillor Seaton is proposing, Councillor Nish is seconding. So I will take the recommendations A to E as one, and as last time, I asked you to indicate with your hand, and joyfully Councillor Hiller is back with us as well. So, I believe that is, we're just waiting for a vote from Councillor Hiller.
Can you take that as a verbal? My screen.
I'll take that as a verbal, Councillor Hiller. So,
vagaries of rural internet. Sorry.
that's unanimous. So thank you very much, everybody. So we will move. Sorry to move you around, but we will move back to 2.3 on the agenda. Which is the A1260 Neem Parkway Junction 15 outline business case. And again, Mehmet, please, if you could introduce.
Right. Thank you again, Mayor and members. The recommendations are to note the progress of this report, approve the outcomes of the outline business case, and recommend to the CPCA board the approval of the drawdown of 470,000 to start working on the full business case and detailed design. I think it's relatively clear in terms of what we're trying to achieve at this important junction on the network in Peterborough. You know, it is looking at tackling the congestion and improving journey time reliability, but also to support the actual, I guess, the growth aspirations and the economic aspirations for the region. And I think the options that, you know, has gone through, obviously an extensive optioneering at the strategic outline business case, but that detail has been worked through in the outline business case stage. What comes before you is is an improvement at the junction, which is detailed in paragraph 2.9, which, you know, looks at widening of certain lanes, the circulatory, providing more capacity on the circulatory, replacement of the pedestrian footbridge as well, because obviously we're widening the carriageway, zebra crossings, and reconstruction of the footpaths. So, you know, it's an all-encompassing, you know, improvement of the junction. In terms of the programme, obviously dependent on where the acceptance of us going to the next stage. Paragraph 3.1 sets out the programme. It does, and this is the indicative programme that we have. But we would hope to be able to get to construction as early as April next year. Like I said, a lot of work and a lot of design has gone into it, and the team is pretty prepped to get going. So, in terms of the benefits, we've got a BCR of 10.2, which is pretty healthy. In terms of the scheme outturn cost at this stage, it's around 5 million. This does represent a potential saving, but at the full business case stage and detailed design stage, obviously we'll start looking at making certain certainty around those costs, because there'll be more investigations and stuff that we do. So, but at the moment, as it stands, there is a potential saving there. In addition as well, as part of our CPCA assurance framework, it has been independently reviewed as well. And in terms of what we've received back from the review externally, they give a high level of certainty around the BCR, which I think is really positive. Again, just to reiterate, it's the recommendation that I'm making is the drawdown of the 470,000 for the detailed design and for business case. That's me.
Okay, thank you, Mehmet. Members' comments, please. No comments?
Yes, I've just put my hand up. Yep.
Sorry, Councillor Van der Veer, I didn't see that. Apologies.
Yeah,
yes,
so I think I've got a couple of general comments that I sort of made previously when we were looking at both this and the other junction. I mean, obviously, we all know the geography of Peterborough, how the place functions, and that both of these junctions that we're looking at now are critical for getting around most of Peterborough. And I do see the need for improvements to stop them being a block on, especially on growth. The real problem is not that the junctions are bad in some way, it's that the traffic volumes are increasing. And so the aspect I think that's missing from both of these reports is how we can, what action we can take to try and reduce traffic volume and sort of how that is done in some sort of coordinated way with these sorts of improvements. Increases in capacity of this nature inevitably create induced demand. I think that's fairly well established now. And so in themselves, they're actually unlikely in the medium term to be able to do all that much to support the economic growth that is their main objective, without considering other things that could be done to manage that traffic down. I mean, it would be interesting to know, and hopefully in the further work that's been done, where is the new traffic coming from? Where are we expecting the sources of the new traffic to be, and therefore what work can we do to address those things more specifically? But I realise that we don't have that information now, and I think we can hopefully in the future look at these things in a slightly better and more holistic way.
Thanks, Councillor Van der Veer. Councillor Hiller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I lost the last two words of the sentence for Councillor Van der Veer, but I think in essence, what I would say to the board members is, depending on who you listen to, it's known that Peterborough as a city is either the fourth or the fifth fastest growing city in the UK. We are blessed with a new town road network called the Parkway. Most will be aware, I'm sure. And from a connectivity point of view and from a transportation point of view, it's a very car-friendly city. And that doesn't mean to say we're in love with cars, but the city itself is car-friendly. We have a number of capacity increase schemes that I know, Mr. Mayor, you'll be aware of, and hopefully some of the other members will be aware of, which work extremely well. And I think to concentrate on just single capacity increase works is probably not the way to look at this. It is a connection and a connectivity, as I said before, of the whole of the city. And it isn't just getting into Peterborough, as you'll be painfully aware in Cambridge, it's getting across the city as well. And we have the fastest commute time of any city in the UK. And these aren't just throwaway lines. It is very, very relevant for a fast growing city with a population of, in excess of 300,000 now. These works are essential for the continuance of the programme that we have to make our city fluid and to make our city work and to attract the inward investment that we are doing currently. People will be aware, I'm sure, of McCormick Spices, of the latest to announce their arrival in our city. These are world-renowned firms, and I'm very proud of the way that our transport guys work with us to maintain what it is we've achieved over the last 10 and 15 years. So I hope you will support both this item and the next item and continue to improve Peterborough. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hiller. Councillor Bates.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Fully support this going forward. Very interesting to see the 10.2 BCR, which is extremely good. So fully support the recommendations, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. I think it's important to note that whilst we are investing heavily, of course, into improving these junctions as a reaction to the growth of the city, as Councillor Hiller has rightly mentioned, we are also investing in walking, cycling in the city centre as well. Government have helped us with over £800,000 to do that in the short term, and we were bidding into further funds as time goes on. And let us not forget that Peterborough has the most advanced cycle network of any city in the UK, and it is well used. So a rounded transport policy includes, of course, all options, and I think that it is absolutely the right thing to be investing, as Councillor Hiller has suggested. Councillor Hiller, your hand is up again.
Only in as much as I failed to mention that, Mr. Mayor, and I apologise, and we do, of course, recognise your input and your expertise regarding the cycling and pedestrian provision. We've just implemented a fair bit of that first tranche of money. You'll be aware, I know you're closely briefed with our leader, and it's ongoing, and I completely support your thoughts and comments about the green wheel, which is peculiar to Peterborough. It's 50, 60 odd miles, and there's a lot of money and investment going into improving and enlarging now. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you very much. So we have the recommendations before us. I'll take them as one again. I just need Councillor Hiller has said to propose, and I just need a seconder, please, and Councillor Bates. All those in favour? Okay, I think that's unanimous, so thank you very much. We will move on to item 2.4. Mehmet is back in the room to talk about the A1260 Ning Parkway Junction 3233 outline business case. Mehmet.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Hello again, everyone. This is down the road, essentially. Again, is at the same sort of stage as Junction 15. Note the progress of the report, approve the outcomes of the outline business case, and then the approval of the drawdown to the board of £500,000 to again start the full business case and detailed design. Again, objectives are the same as the Junction 15, in terms of tackling congestion and journey time reliability. In terms of the options and in terms of the option that's going forward, again, it's looking at improvements to the approaches to the junction, installing traffic lights to actually ease connections and connectivity, and to improve that throughput through the junction. I think in terms of the BCR, it does offer high value for money again of 3.3, which I think is very positive. In terms of the outturn costs at this stage, again at the outline business case stage, we are looking at around 6 million for these improvements. Again, there is some potential savings there for the construction of the scheme, but obviously once we go through the full business case and detailed design, the detail around that will be established, and spend profiles and the rest of it will be made more certain. In terms of the milestones and next steps, the milestones presented in this table is based on if Junction 15 comes first, then this comes second. I'm from working with the team at Peterborough City Council, you can't necessarily do both at the same time, because as we know, if you did try construct both at the same time, the network would be probably compromised, let's just say that, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of complaints. So either one can come first, but Junction 15 is the one that we're probably going to be working on to try and progress first. So like Junction 15, again, we've had an independent review done, and again, the assurances provided as part of the value for money statement is a high level of certainty, which is great. So final statement, the request is to draw down £500,000 for the detailed design and full business case.
Thank you very much, Mehmet. Members, Councillor Hiller.
Yes, thank you again, Mr. Mayor. Thank you again, members. I think Mehmet was absolutely right, hit the nail on the head. It's always a bit of a compromise, and we can be compromised when we're doing too much at the same time. So part of our rationale, if you will, part of our future programme is to do these capacity improvements with the least possible impact, not only on the connectivity of the city, but also the connectivity of the highway. It does irritate people when we're doing works that we know are essential, not just from an improvement point of view, but also from a reparation point of view. Our parkway system was built for traffic levels of 40 years ago. Of course, with a fast-growing city, these things need improvement and also wear out. So we do have almost a continual programme of road reparation as well as improvement. So like similarly to the previous item, I hope you'll support this. It is essential for the continuance of our city's growth agenda, and I would much appreciate yours. Thank you, Mr. Efton.
Thank you very much. There are no other speakers who have indicated, so I'll take it, Councillor Hiller, that you will be proposing again. And a second, I've got loads of numbers coming up for people coming up who want to second, but Councillor Bates was first off the mark, so we will go with Councillor Bates. All those in favour? Yes, okay, thank you, that's unanimous again. I just wanted, I think it's important that that we learn from what has happened in Peterborough. I think that it's an example really of how if you put infrastructure in advance of housing delivery, everything else happens much more smoothly because of that. I'm not saying necessarily that we should be looking to the car for our infrastructure provider as those who were involved in the Peterborough Newtown proposals did in the 60s and 70s. But we can do the same with Cam Metro as Peterborough has achieved with its forward thinking and investment into infrastructure in advance of delivery of housing. And I think it's been a fantastic success. And Councillor Hiller has mentioned the fast-growing city. I think I'm right in saying that when Peterborough Newtown was formed, the town itself was not much more than around 30,000 people, and it's grown to around 200,000, and seemingly quite a lot more smoothly than it is to build and grow elsewhere. So important that we keep on top of that infrastructure, of course. I'd like to move on to item 2.7 on the agenda, which is on Wisbech Rail. And before I introduce Anna Graham to take us through the Wisbech Rail paper, I just want to announce I recently had discussions with the Minister, Chris Heaton-Harris, to highlight the importance of Wisbech Rail for the prosperity and growth of the north of Cambridgeshire area. I'm due to meet the Minister again following DfT's review of the business case, in which I hope we can agree a route to progress this project further. I know officers have already met with Department for Transport and Network Rail, with further engagement planned later this month. I'm encouraged by our recent engagement with central government departments and that Wisbech Rail is now firmly on the radar. We will continue to work with them to progress the scheme into the next stages. Could I also now please ask Anna to introduce the report. Anna.
Thank you. The purpose of the committee paper is to note the conclusions and agree the final version of the full business case. The full business case builds on an outline business case completed in 2015 by further developing options and coming to a preferred single option. The full business case reflects the outcomes of the rail scheme feasibility and design, which is commensurate with Network Rail's GRIP 3B. Further GRIP stages would need to be undertaken to fully develop elements of the business case. The full business case concludes that the most commercially viable solution is a heavy rail service serving a station centrally located within Wisbech. A 2 trains per hour service should run between Wisbech and Cambridge to reach the highest benefit cost ratio. In order to run through to Cambridge, train paths through the busy Ely junction need to be available. Capacity for an hourly direct service between Wisbech and Cambridge is, we believe, available now, prior to the enhancements proposed within the Ely Area Capacity Enhancements project. Securing further capacity increases through the project will form part of the engagement with the Department of Transport. The economic case concludes that the core scenario of the heavy rail option, including wider benefits, has a benefit cost ratio of 2.19, which is classed as high. The key outcomes of the draft full business case were presented to the Combined Authority Board on the 3rd of June 2020. The figures provided at that time were in draft, and since the meeting, the last utility diversion costs were received and certain element of the project's risk allowance has also increased. The change in capital cost estimates compared to the 3rd of June board paper as a result of further utility information are 2.7 million. The change in the risk allowance is 9.3 million. The percentage-based approach to risk is in line with Network Rail's approach, and the BCR with this cost included remains 2.19. The financial case concludes that while there may be scope for financing some elements of the scheme locally and through the fare box, significant national grant funding will be required to enable the delivery of this project. The full business case and GRIP 3B has met the original scope to identify a single option solution, establish a station location, and an alternative means of crossing the existing level crossings. The Restoring Railways Fund offers the best opportunity for national grant funding. Officers have met with DfT, ORR and Network Rail on the 1st of July to present the outcome of the business case and GRIP 3B. Importantly, ORR agreed at this meeting to consider barriers as part of the level crossing solution. A further meeting is planned later this month to enable, following their review of the business case and GRIP 3B. I commend this paper to the committee.
Thank you very much indeed, Anna. Members, Councillor Seaton.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'm really pleased to see this report come before committee members. It is essential, I think, for the growth and the future of not just Wisbech, but March, Fenland, and right through to Cambridge, that this gets the go-ahead from committee. It has been a long time coming, and I note that it does say in there about the pinch point, if you like, at Ely. And that is a concern still, because whilst it says in the report that it is viable at the moment, what and how viable is it going to be until that pinch point is sorted out once and for all? And that seems to be a long time coming. So they're my comments, but I do obviously support the paper, and I'm very pleased that it's come before the committee today. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, the point on Ely is well made. As you would expect, when I met with the Minister, Chris Heaton-Harris, I also spent a significant amount of time talking about Ely Junction. And of course, that affects train services to Norwich, Ipswich, Felixstowe, into the Midlands, as well as those from the Fens coming into Cambridge and London. So it is a massively important hub. And just again, to explain the ridiculousness of it, really, we have the world's or Europe's largest container port at Felixstowe. The direct route from Felixstowe to the Midlands, our engineering capital, is via Ely North. And currently, because of the capacity at Ely North, we're sending freight trains via London and back up to the Midlands, and that cannot make any sense. And the Minister, his constituency is Daventry, and he was well aware of the nonsense that Ely North has been, and we will continue to put as much pressure on as possible to deliver on that. Councillor Schumann.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry, just struggling to unmute there. I think it probably won't again come as no surprise, but just to mention that whatever solution is recommended at Ely North, that we would continue to support the communities of Queen Adelaide and Prickwillow, and any solution needs to take into account them very closely and how the people of those communities can live and carry on living in those areas. But I also wish to just echo Councillor Seaton's support for this much needed project. And just to place my thanks to Anna for the report, because being faced with over 1,000 pages of appendices was quite daunting, but I think Anna managed to cover it very well in the report. So it saved me an awful lot of detailed reading, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Schumann. Councillor Bates.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also support this. I think it's already been said, it's been some time coming. There are issues. Very glad to see it's right into Cambridge. I think that will add, whereas previous discussions, I think people were possibly having to change at March, to see it go straight through are absolutely the right thing to be doing. And obviously the BCR is very good and satisfactory. I recommend the report. Interesting to see precisely where in the centre of Cambridge, middle of Wisbech, the station is. There's been lots of options talked about there. But also, obviously, I think there's some challenges that Anna will have to face with 22 level crossings, which in itself will be, I think, a challenge. But I'm sure we can get through all that, fully support this as it goes forward. It's absolutely crucial for the north of the county to bring prosperity. And there's a lot of developments happening in Wisbech in housing development.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Councillor Bates. I've nobody else who has indicated to speak on this issue, so could we have a proposer, please? Councillor Seaton and a seconder. Councillor Schumann. All those in favour? Again, that's unanimous, so thank you very much indeed. I just want to reiterate the Combined Authority's commitment to rail in the county, and we already, as we are aware, this committee has passed funding for Southern Railway Station. Work will begin this year. We're now at Grit 3 stage for, and in conversation with government for Wisbech Rail, which is something that people never really thought would happen, and here we are. We are investing into railway station improvements at Mainey, March and Whittlesea, improving the car parks, improving the experience for Fenland stations, and lobbying, of course, to get more regular stops on those stations, and we've been successful in getting funding for delivery of Cambridge South Station by 2027, and we will challenge that down to 2025. So the commitment to rail and public transport for the Combined Authority, I don't believe can possibly be questioned, and we will continue to invest across the whole area. Councillor van der Veer, is your hand up left from before? Or?
Apologise, yeah, it's from before.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, members, for your attendance today. I think it's been a really interesting and engaging meeting, and I appreciate all of your comments and engagement. The date of the next meeting is due to be the Wednesday, the 9th of September, and the arrangements for this meeting will be confirmed nearer the time in the light of the emerging situation. I very much hope that we'll be able to meet in person rather than online, but we will see how things go. So. Thank you all for your attendance.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, just very quickly, yes. I may have missed it, in which case I'm very sorry, but for asking the question. But item 2.2, where obviously we had Councillor Hiller out of off the call. Excuse me if I've missed the vote on that, and obviously being in the room, I can't pass a note to Dan. But did we take that vote and it was confirmed as unanimous?
We did take that vote. I spoke.
My apologies for intervening. The clumsiness of the forum, so I couldn't pass you a note. But thank you very much indeed for tolerating that.
If indeed, I might just confirm the Mayor. Yes, it was a verbal confirmation.
Thank you. Yep.
Okay.
Sorry,
thank you very much, members, and good afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.